Okay, how to increase your long run in the most optimal way possible. It's easy. You've decided right now that you're going to improve. You're going to work towards a race. You're going to do a marathon in 3 months' time or an ultra marathon in 6 months' time. Whatever you've decided, it's going to happen. It's now is the way forward is how to get there as optimally as possible. So how to improve as much as you possibly can in the time that you have available. And to do that, you need, in distance running, you need a really strong interval session midweek and a really good long run at the weekend. So how do you increase that long run and gradually increase over the weeks in order to obtain your goal, whatever that may be? And that might be a 5K or a 10K. It's really important to have a strong aerobic base if you're running 1500 meters, 5K, 10K. It's really important. It's not just for people who are running marathons. Whatever distance you're doing, if you're a distance runner, you will improve by having a long run on a regular basis, and ideally once a week. So rule number one, not really rules, but lesson number one, it has to be gradual. So be patient. The quickest way to get injured is to do too much volume. So to do too much running altogether in the week or in the month, to do too much speed work, to do too many hills, or to do a long run that's too long straight away. And your body is just gonna not be used to the stress and it's gonna break down. Or you're gonna get a niggle, you maybe get sick, whatever. So gradually start from where your long run is at the moment. So think to yourself, if you're absolutely brand new to this, what is the longest distance you can run at the moment, and what is the distance? What is the pace of that? So look at that. That might be 10 miles, or it might be 7 miles, or it might be 15K or 20K, whatever it might be. That's your long run starting base. And what you want to do is slow down. So get used to being in zone 1 and zone 2. And that usually means that you can comfortably hold a conversation whilst you're running. Get used to that, because your body is, the endurance run, the long run is to build stamina, is to build endurance. So the purpose of that, think always, what is the purpose of this run? The purpose of the run is to build stamina, to build endurance. So slow it down, get yourself comfortable in zone 1, zone 2, and then off you go. And how do you gradually increase that? So how frequently do you do this? I do my long run every week, and do it when you have most time available, because you don't want to be rushing. You don't want to be doing it after work when it's dark. You don't want to be rushing it and doing it before work and then going to work. It's probably going to take a lot out of you. Most people do it at the weekends where they've got most time, and especially if you've got a job to go to, it's best to do it at the weekends. Take your time, do it every weekend. And what I like to do, for instance, if I'm training for a marathon, a long run might be 25K one week, 30K the next weekend, 35K the next week. And then on that fourth weekend, I will bring it down. I'll drop it back down to 20K or 25K, just so I'm working in cycles so that my body is fresh. There's a myth in distance running that your body will always be tired as your marathon training. That is complete nonsense. Your body has to be fresh, your legs have got to be fresh in order to get the absolute most of the key sessions, which is your midweek interval session and your weekend long run. Simple as that. So frequency, once a week, and keep that to the Saturday or Sunday, whatever day suits you most. And then what about fueling and hydration? Now you've got to I always work from the target and work back. So what do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? What distance am I trying to do? What pace am I trying to do? And what's that going to look like on race day? So if I'm going to race for 50 miles or 100 kilometers or a marathon, what do I want to do? How many carbohydrates, grams of carbohydrates, how many calories do I need to take in every hour in order to get my body to absolute optimal? So we know now, science and sports science especially is improving. Athletes, cyclists, runners, triathletes have been very open with the data. We know what the top athletes are taking in per hour in order to run these crazy times, these sub 2 hour or very close to 2 hour marathons, and that's about 80 to 100 80 to 100 grams of carbohydrate per hour. So what does that look like probably used to, if you're anything like I was 5-6 years ago, you're probably used to looking at the pack of a gel and seeing that you need to take one of these gels, which has 100 calories and 25 grams of carbohydrate. You've got to have one of those every 40 minutes. That's what it usually say on the pack, which is 25 grams of carbohydrate, which would mean that per hour you're taking in 37.5 grams of carbohydrate, which is actually wrong. You should be taking in way more than that. And my biggest gains maybe 5-6 years ago, when I started to up that and get to 60 grams per hour, and then 70 grams and then 80 grams per hour, I noticed that first of all I wasn't losing energy during the runs, and I could run further and faster, and also my recovery was so much faster because the muscle breakdown wasn't happening like it was previously. So the more that you can take in, up to a point, some guys are doing 110 grams of carbohydrate, 120, 130 grams of carbohydrate. But if you can take in 80 to 100 grams of carbohydrate per hour, which if you're going off gels is 3-4 gels per hour. If you've got access to, the latest sports nutrition, Morton is what I use, then that's one bottle of 500 ml 320 mix per hour. And that works really well for me. The absorption is really good. What I get from that during the run is fantastic. It goes into the system. I can convert it to energy very quickly, but that takes practice. So the key time to practice what you're going to be fueling on race day is obviously when you're doing the long run. Yeah, midweek interval session, you're probably going for an hour to an hour and a half. But at the weekend long run, especially if you're training for a marathon or anything longer than 2 hours, you're only going to be running more than an hour and a half, 2 hours when it's that weekend long run. So that's the perfect time for you to practice your fueling and hydration. So fueling, for me, I get in 80 to 100 grams per hour, and I check that and I make a note afterwards. Again, that's a key point. Analyze your performance. Don't just look at Strava or Garmin Connect or whatever you've got. How did it feel, the run? What did you take in? How did your stomach feel? How well is your stomach progressing? How well are you training your stomach in order to take in the fuel and hydration that it needs to have on race day for you to perform optimally? And that is for me, that's the key point. When people ask me about ultra marathon running and running 50 miles or 100K, really there's no difference to running a marathon than there is a 100K. I find it more difficult to run a hard marathon as fast as I possibly can than 100K, because obviously going slower for the 100K, it's just all about fueling. So if you can get that fueling right, you're going to be well on your way to do really well in whatever you're preparing for distance wise. So fueling and hydration, that's your practice. And again, your practice within those long runs is the strategy. So the night before, what are you doing? Your kit is laid out, you're ready in the morning, you know what you're going to have on the midweek interval session and the weekend long run. That's the only time that I have a breakfast. So I'll have literally 4 or 5 bananas blended in water. I'll drink that, and an hour later I'll be starting the session. 45 minutes to an hour later I'll be starting the session, and that's exactly what I'll do. So I'm basically preparing my stomach and saying this is exactly what you're going to feel like on race day. The amount of people that come away from a marathon they've been training for months, and they say, I had stomach problems, I wasn't feeling great, whatever. It's because their stomach hasn't been used to whatever they've taken in that day. That morning for breakfast, running at the time the race was, or what they've taken in during the race. And the amount of people that ask me, hey, I've got a marathon tomorrow, what should I be eating? What should I be drinking? It's unbelievable. It's planning and preparation is the name of the game when it comes to distance running. So race practice, well, what else comes with that? What about your gear? What about your training gear? So the shoes that you're prepared to run in, make sure you're used to them, and they're probably going to be your racing shoes. So make sure that the racing shoes that you're going to use on race day, you're practicing in your long runs, you're practicing on your interval sessions. So you're learning how to run fast in them and how to run long in them. It's as simple as that. Your fueling strategy for the race, but also your, great socks, great sunglasses. Is it hot outside? Do you need a cap? Great shorts that you feel comfortable in that aren't going to rub you. Vaseline is your best friend in distance running. So think about those things and don't be thinking about them 2-3 days before your race or at the expo before the race when you've had months and months, if not years, to prepare for this. Like, it's not rocket science. You just have to think, okay, what is race day going to look like and how do I need to gradually build towards that? So first of all, gradually build up. So if you're running 10 miles at the moment, start at 10 miles. Then run 12 miles next week, then run 14 miles, then go back to 10 miles, then try 16 miles. Gradually move up 2 miles or 3 kilometers or 5 kilometers maximum per week. But no more than 10% is what a lot of people say, but you can push it a little bit further than that and get away with it. And a lot of you are stuck to time. And as I always say, the key to a good training session or key to a good training program is getting fit and then putting a good 10, 12 weeks together, really assert yourself and go really specific for 10, 12 weeks. Any more than that, and it's kind of mentally difficult to be going for 16 or 18 or 24 weeks. Some people do, which is half a year. Like, you can get fit and then be specific for 10, 12 weeks. And obviously, therefore, the midweek interval session and the long run, you're going to have 10 sessions of each. It's that simple. So you've got be gradual, increase the distance gradually, frequency once per week, do it on the weekends. So you've got plenty of time, you're not rushing. Race practice, so practice your fueling, your hydration, super, cannot stress how important that is. And then course, so in terms of carrying things, like I see people obviously wearing race vests and stuff like that, and if you're going to be doing mountain races and you're going to aid stations or drink stations in the mountains and you've got to carry, then fine, no worries. Obviously get used to whatever you're going to need to do. If you're training for a marathon and you're going to be running free without any racing vest, any hydration vest, then obviously be the way that you're going to be when you're in the race. So how are you going to do that? You might need to run on a loop so that you've regularly got access to your drinks. I usually park the car and then go for a loop, and that might be like every 5k, 8k, I'm seeing my car, whatever. There's times in the park. A loop is also good because if you're really feeling it, or your butt muscles are kind of giving way, or you're not really ready for it that day, you've always got the option to kind of do a loop less and then call it a day or whatever. I've in the past loved a great out and back, because once you're out and back, you're halfway, there's no other option but to go home. And for me, psychologically, I love that because it's kind of like you're all in, and it's super important for me. And last point, stick at it, because you will shock yourself at how far and how fast your body can go. And it's just all about gradual improvement over the weeks and over the months, and it's about consistency, and gradually you will see that improvement. You just need to, like anything, you just need to commit, be all in, and be patient as well, because it takes time to become good at something, especially something like distance running. Good luck.